Now, we've been asked to find out the Marshallian demand functions for u equals to max of x1, x2. Okay, u equals to max of x1, x2. So you will consume a commodity which is going to give you the maximum utility. Okay, suppose if price vector is p1, p2, okay, and income of the consumer is m, and what is your budget line equals to? So it is m is equal to p1x1 plus p2x2. Okay, so p1x1 plus p2x2, that is the total expenditure is equal to total income. So you're assuming this, that the entire income is spent, consumer is consuming on the budget line and not within the budget line. Okay, so if your u is equal to max of x1, x2. Now, important thing for us to understand is that you're going to consume a commodity which is going to give you a higher utility. Okay, and which kind of commodity will you consume more? Which one is a cheaper commodity? Okay, the one which is a cheaper commodity. Okay, so if p1 is less than p2, in this case you will buy x1. So which one is a cheaper commodity? And we are remember this, that we are trying to derive the Marshallian demand functions for x1. Other thing for us to understand is Marshallian demand functions are in terms of income and prices. So they are in terms of income and prices. So we are trying to derive the Marshallian demand functions for x1. So if p1 is less than p2, you will be buying, which one is the cheaper commodity? Only x1. Okay, and you will not be buying anything for x2. So your budget line would become p1x1, sorry, plus p2 into 0. Okay, so your x1 would be equal to m by p1. Clear? So in this case, so this is your Marshallian demand function. Similarly, if p1 is greater than p2, so which one is the cheaper commodity? x2. Okay, so your budget line would be p1 into 0, because you're not buying anything for x1, plus p2x1, p2x2, I'm sorry, and your x2 would be equal to m by p2. But your x1 is equal to 0, since we are deriving the demand functions for x1, so your x1 would be equal to 0. Now the important case is p1 is equal to p2. Okay, see, up until now everything in this question is going according to a perfect substitute kind of a function. Okay, you're buying a cheaper commodity. Which one is the cheaper commodity? You will buy more of that commodity, and that will give you a higher utility because your x1 would be higher in that. Okay, now other thing for us to understand is if p1 is equal to p2. Now if p1 is equal to p2 is that you will be buying only one of the commodity. Okay, that is, either you will buy x1 or you will buy x2. You will not buy a combination of x1 and x2. Remember this is very, very important. You will buy either x1 or you will buy x2. You will not buy a combination of x1 and x2. Okay, as used to be in the case of perfect substitutes. The reason being, just have a look at this kind of a utility function where you have u equals to max of x1, x2. Okay, now you will be buying only one commodity. That is, in according to this utility function, you will be consuming only one commodity. You will buy either, which one is giving you a higher utility, you will be buying that only, or you will be consuming that only. So if you buy a combination of x1 and x2, in case if p1 is equal to p2, you will be consuming only one commodity. You may buy, okay, but then the commodity which you haven't consumed, it will go waste. So that is kind of a societal waste. Okay, and that is not allowed. Okay, you will be buying only one commodity, either x1 or x2. So if you buy x1, your demand function is m by p1, or if you buy x2, your demand function for x1 would be 0. So it is or. Remember this is important. Or, so these are the demand functions. So if p1 is less than p2, you'll be buying all of x1. If p1 is greater than p2, you'll be buying all of x2, and hence x1 is equal to 0. If p1 is equal to p2, you'll be buying either m by p1, that is all of x1, or you'll be buying all of x2. In that case, x1 is equal to 0. Similarly, you guys can find out the Marshall and demand functions for x2. Remember this, that all of these are Marshall and demand functions because these are in terms of income and prices.